I'm looking right in front of me at these latest figures from the retail industry, showing that sales grew 3.2% in July. So that's a good bit of positive news for the industry. And that was when non-essential stores reopened. But many shops continuing to struggle, fewer customers, fewer impulse purchases. So how do you be nimble in that industry? We've got Ibrahim Ibrahim with me, who's the managing director of Portland Design, a retail design firm. Also sits on the boards of the High Streets Task Force, which was commissioned by the government last year to improve town centres. Morning to you, Ibrahim.
Morning, Sean. Hi.
I mean, things have changed a bit since you were appointed onto that task force. Is it a completely different question, do you feel, now?
No, I mean, I'm quite sort of longer term optimistic. Yes, I think there are obviously challenges at the present time and maybe in a medium term, but long term, I think there's a future for shops, a future for physical spaces, and I think the internet will not kill shops. I think it will liberate them to become potentially fantastic experiences, places where brands can really create experiences that tell their stories, that allow customers to participate in experiences that are to do with the brand, create community. I think shops have a potential to really attract sort of local brands and bring real localism back to the high street. So I think, I'm optimistic long term. I really am.
And that does all sound lovely, Ibrahim, but can that add up financially? I mean, we're seeing many businesses that have those, enthusiastic entrepreneurs who are trying to give customers exactly what they want right now, struggling and maybe not being able to survive the coming months. Is it really making much difference if you're being super nimble, but you can't pay your rent?
Yes, I mean, I think, as I said, longer term, I think financially it can add up. I'm not saying 100% of all the shops will be okay. There's going to be a rationalisation, but I think longer term, strategically, shops will be increasingly used by brands to recruit customers, where transaction will increasingly happen online. And in recruiting customers, a shop, a physical space, will increasingly be used like a piece of media. And the potential revenue models from that are very interesting, albeit very different, but interesting. I don't know, what proportion of the stores will do that, and that's the big question. But I certainly think that will increase, and brands will use stores for a different purpose than just transaction. They'll have an integrated model of recruiting customers in the physical space and then driving them to digital social platforms and also to online e-commerce sites. So the role of the store, to a certain extent, will change and will drive revenue. And I think that's what's really interesting.
Which high streets are doing better than others right now in a very tough time? Is tourism playing a big role?
No, I think tourism, anecdotally, I think obviously tourism has been affected. Now it's going to affect, and it is affecting high streets. But I think those high streets that bring in different types of activation in the high streets, like markets and other kind of community experiences, are beginning to come to life, definitely. But yeah, short term, right now, there are challenges, absolutely. My concern is longer term. My concern is strategically. My role on the task force is definitely about the future and about how retail is changing and what is going to drive that change. And I'm relatively optimistic long term. We've got to think about a new purpose of physical space and how we can. And I deliberately call it physical space and not shops, because the purpose, I think, will change. Again, not 100%, but I think a good proportion of stores will be used for different kind of purposes. And I think what will happen, and this is the optimism piece, it will attract new brands and new type of organisations to see physical spaces as a great channel to engage with their customers.
Yeah, I've found it's still remarkable, impressive, seeing new shops open, the frontage being painted in the last few weeks, and new names appearing on high streets around where I live, and people have that energy to do it. So we'll see how they're able to capitalise in the months to come. Ibrahim, thank you. Ibrahim there, who's the managing director of Portland Design, which is a retail design firm.